Hey, what is up guys, your boy Izukage here with part 2 of What If Deku Had All For One. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let's begin. So before we get into the what if, I'm gonna go over some of the quirks that Deku has. Some of the one I mentioned in the last part were intelligence, super speed, and the illusion quirk that hides his actual identity. He also has element manipulation, wind, water, earth, fire, stuff like that, regeneration, and a quirk that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. It hasn't been introduced in the anime, but it's a class 1B student, and her name is Setsuna Tokage. Kinda sounds like Izukage, which you should be subscribed to. Like, what are you doing with your life? Yeah. But her quirk allows her to split her body into 50 pieces and control them like they're levitating. He also has other quirks that I'll use here and there, but those are the quirks that he's mainly going to use. So we left off with Deku at the practical part of the entrance exams. As soon as President Mike says go, Deku runs full speed down the street, destroying 10 two-pointers by wrapping them in a web of fire. Then they start melting from the heat. He runs around the city doing this for another 30 minutes, and by the time the 0-pointer shows up, he has over 200 points. Then he hears a scream. It's the one and only Oraka. She is stuck under some rubble somehow with her having a zero gravity quirk. But whatever, Deku sees the 0-pointer going to crush her, and he uses a wind blast to knock it back. He uses his Frankenstein quirk to pop off his left arm and take Oraka to safety. Deku focuses back on the 0-pointer, who already regained its balance and was getting ready for an attack. Deku uses his flames to melt the 0-pointer's legs, and as it fell over, he uses earth pillars to stab through its chest. After that, he had about 10 minutes before the practical exams ended, but Deku just began to walk out of school because he was pretty sure he had passed. The teachers who were watching were amazed at his strength, but All Might was thinking about something, putting his 2 brain cells to work, and he saw that this kid had multiple quirks. He thought maybe he was in league with All For One, or he was the kid he heard about who got kidnapped. But he didn't think on this too much because he still thought All For One was dead and no one knew where the kid was. So by now, Deku had stopped bumping into people on the streets because that would start to get suspicious. In the 2 weeks before he would get his letter from UA, Deku had been doing vigilante work and collecting villains' quirks. At the end, people would know him as the suited hero, because he does all his hero work in a suit and tie and a mask to hide his face. But to All Might and all the heroes who knew of All For One, the two looked similar. On one of his patrols, he encountered All Might, and the two had a quick fight before Deku used his equivalent to Perfect Cube and sealed All Might. So, the number 1 hero. Kid, stop doing illegal work. You seem very powerful. Why don't you become a hero? Even though you'll be in prison for a few years for the villains you've killed. Well, All Might, I think you'll be seeing me more often. After all, I'll always be at your side. And before All Might could question this, Deku teleported back to his apartment, then released All Might from his cube. After receiving his acceptance letter from UA, Deku went to his class and sat at the back next to the window, like a usual anime protagonist. During Ida and Bakugou's argument, Aizawa stopped them before they could get any louder and told them to meet him outside. Deku simply used his super speed to change into his gym gear and appeared outside. And after everyone else came, Aizawa said, "Hey, Izuka. Since you came first, throw the ball." And if you guys don't know, Izuka is his alias. I know no one will figure it out. It's very complex. And Bakugou was in the back starting to shoot off explosions in anger. I was supposed to come first. Who's this nobody? Deku simply grabbed the ball and used his wind manipulation to shoot it at around 10,000 meters, shocking everyone in the class. After that, Deku got perfect scores on all the tests and trials, and by the end, everyone knew the class hierarchy, which had Deku at the top. Bakugou wanted that spot for himself, so after the test, he ran straight to Deku, trying to catch him off guard with an explosion. But before Aizawa could stop him, Deku grabbed him by the neck and raised him in the air, and similar to Ghost Rider, when Bakugou looked into his eyes, he saw what cruel things he had done to the many kids when he was younger, and all their pain came rushing back to him. Deku released his grip and Bakugou fell onto the ground screaming in pain. Then Deku walked off. The members of Class 1A as well as Aizawa were scared of Deku, more specifically what he could do, because with just a look, he left one of the most promising students on the ground screaming for their life. On the day of the Hero vs Villains test, Deku and Oraka were matched up on the Hero team, while Bakugou and Ida were matched up against them on the Villain team. Deku, wanting to get this over with, teleported both himself and Oraka to the bomb room. As they are paired, Bakugou and Ida went on the offensive, and Bakugou let off his gauntlet explosion immediately, knowing what Deku could do. As the dust from the explosion settled, Bakugou got blasted with a strong gust of wind and got sent flying into a wall, knocking him out. And Oraka, who had snuck behind Ida during the commotion, touched him, which left him floating in the air without the ability to control his movements. Then the two touched the bomb. Hero team win. Bakugou was scolded for letting off such a huge explosion next to the bomb, and the heroes were congratulated for their effective takedown of the villain team and capturing the bomb. 2 weeks passed and Class 1A were on the bus to the USJ. On the bus, some members of the class talked about their quirks, just getting to know one another. At the USJ, after 13 speech, many warp gates began opening and villains began coming out of them. Deku and Aizawa were the first to engage the villains, while the rest of the class got warped to different areas of the USJ. Deku alongside Aizawa took down all the villains except 3. A guy with a hand on his face, a guy who could create portals who was currently unconscious, and a large bird-like monster running towards them. With Aizawa's scarf, he temporarily captured the Nomu, and Deku, using one of his hottest flames, burnt the Nomu to ashes. After taking care of the Nomu, Kurogiri finally woke up and saw their defeat and went straight to warp Shigaraki away. But before he could, Deku launched a fireball at him, burning Shigaraki's right side from his head to his toe. Then, as the villains got away, All Might as well as other UA teachers arrived to see villains being captured by Aizawa and Deku. After their 2-week break, meaning another 2 weeks of vigilante work for Deku, he came across a man notorious for killing villains, and where he got his nickname, the Hero Killer Stain. After successfully taking down another fake hero, the Hero Killer turned to go deeper into the alleyway, and he saw a well-dressed man slowly walking towards him. Stain pulled out his blades and rushed towards the man, who simply used his barrier to block the attack. Stain's sword broke under the pressure, and soon he received a flurry of punches to his chest. Stain was knocked almost to unconsciousness before he looked up and saw the man slowly taking off his mask. Stain, finally realizing that this was the vigilante suited hero, tried running away, but as he turned around, he saw the man teleport in front of him, kicking him in the face, knocking Stain unconscious. Deku took off his vigilante gear and went to UA to turn in the Hero Killer. At UA, Nezu and the other students were surprised that a first-year student took down such a high-class villain, and one who has killed many heroes in the past. At his astounding achievements, he was offered a provisional hero license, meaning he could do hero work without legal ramifications. Izuku decided not to take up the offer right away and would receive it during his work studies after the sports festival. That's where I'm gonna leave off this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave me some feedback in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.